It has to be true integration, and not just for Black people or people of color. There's so many of us that still need to feel represented in this particular cultural scene, because it's where you see yourself from many different eyes, and if you don't see yourself the minute you walk into the door, you already feel excluded. My name is Felicia. I go by the stage name Felispeaks. I'm a poet, performer, playwright. I'm based in Maynooth, work in Dublin and everywhere else in Ireland that I could possibly get to as fast as possible. I work in the arts, and it has continuously shown itself to be exciting and evolving and consuming in many ways. I started working on poetry in college. It was an open mic night in Maynooth University. I had my first shot at the open mic. I completely sucked. But I got an honorary 4th mention from one of the judges. And the following year, I went back and I came first. And I got to represent Maynooth University at the InterVarsity Slam competitions in NCAD. So that one is a joint first with another Maynoothian, and we took the trophies home, and it was incredible. I had the really uncomfortable moment where I was like, this is actually a big deal. There was news reporters and photographers, and I thought this was absolutely bonkers for something that I didn't realize was much bigger than me and much bigger than what my mind could conceptualize. So at that point in time, I was just writing poetry for expression. I was putting somewhere all my emotions and thoughts that needed release, that needed a place to stay. So poetry kind of gave me that outlet. So after the InterVarsities, my first big slot after that was during St. Patrick's Festival, 2017, I believe. I had an amazing time. Luckily that night, even though I had it as my crutch, I didn't look at the page, I didn't look at the paper, and I just performed. And that was one of the first times I really let my body own the poem. I've been a performance artist and a poet since. I think, for lack of a better word, I think we're still quite new at representing everybody that exists, or all the pockets and subcultures and subsections of people that exist in our society today. I think the cultural scene still has a lot of growing to do, and I think we will probably have a lot of patience. We'll still have to have a lot of patience for that growth to evolve as organically and as purposefully as possible, without it feeling like it's one-size-fits-all remedy, or that we're putting a plaster on it. It has to be true integration in many ways, and not just for Black people or people of color. There are all kinds of people. There's the disabled community, the traveling community, the LGBT community. There's so many of us that still need to feel represented in this particular cultural scene. And I think most importantly, the art scene, because it's where you see yourself from many different eyes, and if you don't see yourself the minute you walk into the door, you already feel excluded and like not part of the culture. And I think we still have a long way to go, and we can only get better, especially because with a year like 2020, there's been a lot of exposing of all our weaknesses in many ways. Throughout every sector, I've noticed there's just a lot of shining a light on, this is broken, how can we fix it? Representation is a broken section, and we're still fixing it. English is my first language, but so was Yoruba. I grew up hearing both languages at the same time, so being exposed to both. I grew up like mixing English and Yoruba as a child quite often. So even now as an adult, I have a lot of moments where this happened like a couple of days ago. I was having a really intense like philosophical conversation at home, and I couldn't think of the word for something. And I had to say it in Yoruba, and I kept repeating it in Yoruba, and I had to ask my family members, I was like, what is this word in English? And one of them said it to me, and I was like, oh goodness, I actually know that word. Why couldn't I think of it? So for people that speak more than one language or think in more than one language, there is that halt between performer and audience member that feels that there is a specific way to communicate with your audience, or actually limiting English to the only tool of communication, as if humans are not constantly communicating with their body and their expressions and just even their eyes. And also I think we don't credit people enough for how much they can understand without English being the center of it. And I think it's a colonial mindset. Using English as a standard across every person you meet, I think is not just unfair, but it's limiting and it's small-minded, especially for a country that has more than one official language. I mean, Ireland is still trying to show the rest of the country an appreciation for the Irish language, and it's still trying to cement that in the education system, and it hasn't finished accomplishing that yet. So I think the best way for even that section of the Irish culture to thrive is to expand it and open it up for several cultures and languages to thrive. For instance, right now, one of the things that I'm doing, WeAreGriot, which is the collective that I'm part of, and I are filming our first trio performance, which was supposed to launch in March, and that got cancelled because of coronavirus. But we're going to perform this piece, and in it has this playful way of using English, and it translates throughout the piece, and this pidgin English, and you hear the translation and the weight of pidgin English versus English and what that sounds like in our tone as Nigerians, as Irish Nigerians, how that sits on our tongue is very exciting, and I think it's something that I'll bring into my poetry a bit more. For the artist that looks anything like me or sounds anything like me or is exploring poetry anything like I am, be patient with yourself. And yeah, you're a little weird, okay? Like, you're gonna have to get over the weird bit very quickly. And weird isn't bad, weird is just different, and you'll come to embrace it, you'll come to really like it. As soon as you understand it, you will wield it like a powerful force and you'll be unstoppable. So 1, get over your weirdness, and 2, just keep going patiently.